Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Monday morning, November 6th. We saw 5 different bucks, no shooters, but we had a good time. And seeing different deer, different bucks are nice. I thought today what we would cover is Randy had brought it up of what's best, how to learn as far as learning from tearing something down and putting it back together and repairing it, or schools, books, and so on. So we'll cover that when we get back. So honestly, what I think is the answer is both. I mean, I've known guys that were book smart, but lacked any common sense in how to do things. And I've seen people that were great mechanics, great at whatever they were trying to do, farmers, great at it, but their time spent learning stuff with books and trade schools and all that, they had none. So, I mean, is it possible to just tear things down, put it back together, and learn from that? Absolutely. But if you could take the combination of that, and then, if you're going to get into, we'll use small engine. And I know that the auto industry for mechanics is similar to that, is that a lot of the distributors, if you want to sell for an OEM and do the warranty work for them, they require you to go to certain schools, classes, updates, what have you, and test out. And it all goes with, how far you want to go up. I mean, I can take Kohler, for example. Kohler has a basic course that you need to take. A lot of times they like to have you in the classroom in Albany, but they are willing to do the updates online, which is nice. So when you first sign on with Kohler, you have to test out how to X, Y, and Z based on what their course structure was for with how they want repairs done and the way to do it. And then once you've done that, every year you have to just do updates just to keep it. And each manufacturer is different. And the thing is each one require you to pay them to take their course. And I think it's no different than paying tuition to go to college to learn. You're paying for these courses. Some can get $200 to $300. Some are $50. Per course, per update. Now, if you can get a little bit of both, then I think, because some people, my son is one of those people. And when it comes to books, he has a hard time. He struggles with it a little bit. And, I mean, he can read, but a lot of times comprehending and storing it is difficult for him. Whereas with me, I can read it and everything makes sense, But when it comes to application, this is where he and I differ, is that Claude can show him out here a way to do something once, and that kid's got it. And I can't. I mean, Claude can show me once, and if I go back out, I got a bunch more questions because I forgot half of what he did when he was doing it. My son's process, he says he can watch somebody do something and just store it, and he's got it. He's a walking encyclopedia. If if you have a conversation with him and you talk about different stuff, he stores it. But when it comes to actually textbooks and testing and all that stuff, he doesn't do super well at. We're not all built the same. Some of us are good when it comes to books, learning, excuse me, and that's okay. It's like I told you, the most educated man I ever met was my grandfather, and he graduated from the 6th grade. And it wasn't until later in life, and this is funny because my grandmother was a school teacher. My grandfather had a hard time trying to read, write, spell, understand sometimes what certain words meant. And I can remember he'd sit there for hours doing crosswords. And he would be looking up in the dictionary definitions to the stuff that he was working on. It was a crossword dictionary or something. But he self-taught himself so that he could read very easily, write very easily. Astounding speller, It wasn't because he couldn't do it. It's because he went a different path. He went to work on the family farm in the 6th, after graduating the 6th grade. I believe that we all have it in us to learn. But the learning process is going to be different for each one of us. And that process, there's no right or wrong. As far as a mechanic in my shop, if I can align him, if it's a younger person or even an older person that hasn't got a lot of experience, but is like my son and would absorb all this knowledge quickly if you paired him up with someone that is doing it right, that person's worth more to me than someone that is book smart and has to keep running back to the book to follow a process. If you understand what I mean. Both will end up being good mechanics. But the one learns quickly. The other one takes time because they're still going back to that book to make sure they're following a certain process, where the one over here has already got it. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, some of you mechanics, is that what if the guy that's teaching that person isn't following the right steps and is teaching that person the wrong way to approach something when there's a better way out there? And you're correct too. And I can use, how I like examples. All right, so we've been having problems with my Ford dually that we use for hauling tractors and bigger equipment. And I did a YouTube video I went and searched YouTube videos to find out what would be causing this. You'd be going right along at 60, and all of a sudden you lost all accelerator. It still ran, but it would drop off. And they said it was a speed sensor in the front hubs of the truck. Now, Claude is a car mechanic / truck mechanic by trade. That's what he did most of his life, before he went to work for different companies. And I trusted him he seemed like he knew how to do a certain task. And so we started tearing down the front hub. We took the brake caliper off, and he had it in his head that you had to pull the 4-wheel drive because it had lock-in, lock-out hubs. To pull that out, And then there's this snap ring that's in there. And it takes a special set of snap ring pliers. Because, I mean, it's back in there about this far. And just the strength to squeeze that, bring that out. And we didn't have the tool. So I went on to Amazon. I know this is a long story, but I went on to Amazon and I ordered the snap ring pliers that were made specifically for the 2004 to 2009 Ford dualies for the snap rings in the front hub. Get them, and you can't even fit these things into that hub to even try to spread the snap ring. So my son is a mechanic for a Ford dealership, and I texted him, and he said that, I said, can you get your hands on a pair of snap ring pliers for a day or two? Because over there, their mechanics own their own tools. And the one that his buddy that worked on all the big trucks, the diesels, and gave him this set of snap ring pliers to send home to me, which we were very gracious. We appreciated that, and we'll return the favor when he needs a tool. But he sent it home for us to use, and lo and behold, we were able to get the snap ring out. But Cloud still couldn't get the hub to get to the sensor. So I decided I'd come in and just search YouTube. And here is this Ford certified mechanic, and he's showing how to do exactly what we are doing. And he never took the snap ring out of the hubs. He didn't have to. He had to remove the spacer because it was a dually, so that the front tire ran at the same distance as your rears. But once you took that off, there was just a plastic or a thin metal tab that you pulled down to gain access to it. And the hub, it was so easy. It was like 3 steps. And we had spent all one day trying to get this snap ring out. But that's what I mean by you can be taught the wrong way. And I know a lot of mechanics, that are out there that are with repair shops and stuff like that. That's the other thing they're doing. They're incorporating hands-on, possibly some schooling, but somebody somewhere by now has tried doing just what you're trying to do on YouTube. And if you're like my son that sucks up good information, and there is bad information, yes, there are some YouTubers that you just shake your head at it. But for every one of them, there's 5 or 6 good mechanics out there that are talking about how to do it in steps. So you can learn. Now you have 3 different places you can learn, and that is hands-on, and that includes on-the-job training. You have the books, the manuals on each piece of equipment and the procedures, and now you also have YouTube with folks out there that are truly willing to help other people learn if they want to learn. And this is where, we've lost a lot of our business, per se, as repair shops, because they're teaching people how to fix their own stuff versus bringing it to us. So the ones that we end up getting are the ones that just either don't have time for it or don't even want to get their hands dirty. And that amounts to about half of the people that we used to see. We don't have hardly any walk-ins anymore buying retail off the shelf because they get it so much cheaper right on eBay. But if they do walk in, they're willing to pay the extra for the convenience to have it today. So you've got 3 different venues to learn from. And each one, I think, are important. But I think if you can incorporate all three into one, that would be the way to go. So hopefully that kind of answered the question. I mean, I know it's kind of a long roundabout to get to the question that you asked, but I think all three are important. The one thing the good Lord gave me, and I'm very appreciative of it, is having common sense. And a lot of times, the ones that are really good at books, testing, and all that tend to not have a lot of common sense. Now, I graduated top of my class in college and with honors, National Honor Societies, and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So I would be classified in that group that is book smart. But the only thing different with me is I do have common sense that was taught to me growing up. Now, as I talked about, my son, if he watched somebody do it and explained to him what they were doing, if him and I were standing side by side, and he's not book smart, and I love him for it, but he would learn it quicker than I would, if that makes any sense. So it's not all about intelligence per se. It's about how we take in the information, digest it, and then store it. And then know when that job comes back up again that we can do it. Some learn it quickly, like my son, and can knock it out. Whereas I'm asking a lot of questions on the second time through of the process because it hasn't absorbed into my head like it has my son's. So I think everybody's different, and that's okay. Everybody learns differently, and that's okay. But I think if you can incorporate all three, the more you know, the better it is on making decisions. Because that's what we do all day long, every day, is make decisions. Some are good decisions, some are bad decisions. But it's making the decision of how am I going to tackle this project. Now, if you are able to do the trade schools if you want to do warranty for any of these OEM manufacturers, Kohler, Briggs, they're going to require that you at least attend, whether it be online or whether it be in a classroom, to test out. They will give you the learning instructions, and sometimes it's like a 2-day course on a weekend, like a Saturday, Sunday type thing. And for us, the closest course that we ever see is Albany, which is 5 hours away, a 5-hour drive for us. Depending on what you have for a shop. If you're a shop owner and you're a one-man band, you're going to be the one that goes and takes the course. And if you're part of a bigger shop and you're the repairman in that shop, good chances are the owner of the business is probably going to send you and maybe one other mechanic to that trade school to learn and then bring that knowledge back to the rest of the crew. Even though that one person is the only one that's certified to do the warranty work, to sign off on it per se. For us, it's always been, I go do it. And I know what you're going to say, well, why are you doing it if you're not out there in the shop as a mechanic full time. Shouldn't the mechanic go? And they should. But here's a couple thoughts on my reasoning. Is one, Claude is like Robert. He's not really good when it comes to book smart. And trying to absorb all that information that is being taught to them over that weekend of teardowns and so forth, and why you do it a certain way, and you're doing step by step through the books, and at the end you have to test out. And he's not that great at that. So, I mean, it goes back to knowing, as an owner or a repair shop, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. And that's one of Claude's weaknesses, is taking tests and reading and writing and so forth. So I go and take the test out, and a lot of times when we're doing the updates, and the way a lot of them are set up, that you have to sign in with a certain number they give you that aligns to that shop, and you have to pay for it in advance. And when you log in, you can see the classroom of just the one guy, but you can see on the side all the different people that have logged in for that school lesson for that particular warranty manufacturer business. So a lot of times what I'll do on that is they set a specific time you have to sign in, and it's like 2-3 hour seminar type thing. And that I will, because you're looking at a computer screen, I will grab Claude and say, have a seat, and we're going to spend the next 3 hours and see if you understand what they're telling you. And between the two of us, we absorb it all. But I'm the one that tests out. And the other thing that I look at is mechanics come and go. I'm telling you right now. And as a shop owner, you try to retain good people. But if you spend all your time and money sending one particular mechanic to all these trade schools, he's the one getting certified, not the business. It's him, and he works for the business, so you can do the warranty work through the business. You have to have a shop name plus the mechanic's name is what goes on the certificates. But if that mechanic leaves, all that warranty work that you normally could have done, you can no longer do, because you don't have a certified mechanic there to do the work. So with me going and certifying, is I'm the one certified. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm the shop owner. So it's sometimes, it's a catch-22 on how you want to approach it. But that's why we do it here that way. The bigger shops, like I say, they send their one or two of their mechanics. And I've seen some of the bigger shops take and send one mechanic to Kohler, one mechanic to Briggs. It's a different one. So that each one has gone to school and is certified in a certain area, their strengths and weaknesses. And then they're required to pass that knowledge on that they've learned from that classroom to the rest of the mechanics that are there. So on that note, you guys have a great Monday, and we'll see you here bright and early tomorrow morning. Thanks so much for watching.